We're now going to take a look at how we can fill in our brand new document with a certain color. Maybe you want to start off with a red background. Well, remember, you only got to choose white, transparent, or whatever your background color swatch was at the time. Let me first come up here and create another new document. I'll just use the CD cover so we have the white background. Remember, these are our only three choices for the color. Of course, background color in my case would just be white again. Go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to look at two different ways that we can fill this in with a color. We can also use a pattern, by the way. I've never done it, but we'll show you that as well. Now before we get started, I just want to pick a few different colors. I'll click a new foreground color and a new background color. Now the first thing that we can do is fill in our document with either the foreground or the background color simply by using a keyboard shortcut. Of course, if you wanted to use the background color, you could have done this while creating the new document, but this is pretty easy, and I use this all the time. To do this, you hold either the Control key and hit the backspace or delete button, or the Alt key and hit the backspace or delete button. If I hold the Control and hit backspace, you'll see it fills with the background color. If I hold the Alt key down and hit backspace, you see it fills it with the foreground color. And again, you could hit the Control and delete, or Alt and delete. Either one works. So if I wanted to reset this to white really quick, I could reset my colors back to black and white and do Control backspace to get back to a white background. The other way that we can do this is to use the Fill command, and this is located under the Edit menu. And we'll see Fill, not Fade Fill or anything like that, just the Fill command right here, or Shift F5. That's the keyboard shortcut I use most of the time. Go ahead and click that. Opens up the Fill dialog box. And we first want to take a look at this contents area. As you can see, we can choose the foreground color, which in my case would be black. The background color in my case would be white. You could pick color, which will open up the color picker. You can choose pattern, history, black, 50% gray, or white. Forget all about history. That's not really that important. Of course, these are three choices that are very popular. We'll take a look at pattern in a moment and content aware in a later lesson, but if you want a solid color, just click the color option. It opens up the color picker, and then you just pick a color as you normally would. Click OK, and click OK again. And you see we get that color. Now I'll come back over here to the Shift F5. I'm going to use that keyboard shortcut to open this back up. And so there's not a whole lot to it. The only thing you need to be aware of actually, is this section down here, the blending section, the mode and opacity. If you don't have opacity at 100%, just say that's 50%, and your canvas has already been filled with a color, and you come over here and pick another color, and you say, all right, I'll pick kind of this maroon or whatever color that is. You click OK. Well, what happens is you don't get that color. You're going to get a 50% mix of whatever blue is and the other color that I just picked. If you had a white background on there, this would have been sort of a pale pink, and you'd be wondering, well, that's not the color I picked. So you have to be aware, again, Shift F5, you have to be aware to have the opacity set to 100 if you want to get your solid color. And of course, if you pick any of these other blend modes and then pick another color, you might get something also a little bit different. All depends on the blend mode of what you're going to get. So you can see that's not the color that I picked. So if you run into that problem, it's because of either the mode is not at normal or the opacity is not at 100%. Now the other thing we can do is fill this in with a pattern. I'll come over here to pattern, and we can see that from this little drop down box we get two patterns right off the bat. So if I were to pick this bubbles, we would get this pattern of bubbles. Now I'm going to go ahead and just hit Control Z on that one, come back up here to the Fill command again to show you that we can get other patterns as well. If we click this little button, drops down. Let me pull this up a little bit. Click the button, because otherwise it was dropping down beyond my recordable area. And we have some things that come with Photoshop. So if I were to choose, for example, rock patterns, again, I get this typical replace or append. I'll say append. It'll just add the new patterns to this list. And if I were to choose rocks, you see we fill it in with this rock pattern. Now this is where the background color and your new patterns can actually mix to create something a little bit different. In this case, I might not want the opacity to be 100%. Maybe I want 50%. And I'll come over here and pick these red rocks. But this time around, they're not quite red. They blend a little bit with the green. In fact, edit fill, I'll leave this on 100%, and I'll choose a mode called, well, again, I got to drag this up even higher here. Choose a mode called color. And that will colorize the rock pattern. Now, it won't be particularly green, but it'll be some combination of whatever these colors are, along with green. In fact, we can see we got a lot of red in there, but we do have some green in these little areas. Just remember, if you leave the blend mode to anything other than normal and the opacity anything other than 100%, you're going to get a combination of what you currently have on the canvas and what you're trying to get. And as long as you leave the blend mode or opacity at normal and 100%, come over here, switch that back to normal, then of course everything that's there will be obliterated and you'll get whatever you picked. In this case, I picked this stone pattern, and we get the exact pattern without any colorization or fading or anything like that. Now again, I have never used any of these patterns, just want to let you know it's there, but I do use that fill quite often. Most of the time I can get away with my foreground and background color and use the Control or Alt along with the delete or backspace, but sometimes I have to come up here to the edit menu, fill, choose a solid color, and fill my document with that color. So that's how you start off with a blank document that's a color other than white, your background color, or transparent. In the next lesson, we'll take a look at how we can create a new document that will be the exact same size and resolution of an existing document.